On a scenic European river cruise, our exclusive events are handcrafted to immerse you in culture. An enchanting private concert at Palais Liechtenstein, an evening of champagne and opera at Rastatt Palace, a medieval banquet in Marksburg Castle. Once-in-a-lifetime events, only with Scenic.
See your Scenic agent to book your 2016 river cruise and fly free to Europe.
God bless America.
The first pontiff to address a joint meeting of Congress.
Some on the right will like what he says. Some on the left will like other things that he says.
I'm very concerned that a religious leader, the head of a church, is being recognized as a head of state.
818 tons of concrete block.
We're doing our best to ensure certainly the safety of the Pope.
37 miles of barriers and fencing.
If I do something wrong, Allison, I have very thick skin. I don't mind being criticized.
He is boycotting Fox News.
I don't think this is divorce. I think it might be a momentary separation.
I am so tired of this politically correct crap.
This is New Day with Chris Cuomo, Allison Camerata, and Michaela Pereira.
Welcome to our viewers in the United States and those around the world. This is New Day. Allison and Michaela are in New York. We are coming to you live from the U.S. Capitol building, where big crowds are already gathering, awaiting the main event. Pope Francis addressing a joint meeting of Congress in just about 90 minutes. Catholics, non-Catholics, believers, non-believers, all alike are here to hear the pontiff's words. And if his comments so far about immigrants, climate change, and poverty are any indication, today's speech may make some uneasy. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you could be in an awkward spot. Let's begin our comprehensive coverage with CNN's chief national security correspondent, Jim Sciutto, who joins me now. You got the mix of the man, the message, and the moment. Boy, Pope Francis couldn't be here at a better time.
Chris, that's right. And we expect this speech to be more of a gentle nudge than a stern scolding. But this is a pope with a very powerful voice and deep conviction. And he's going to be addressing some of the most controversial, divisive issues here, certainly in Washington, but in the country: immigration, abortion, climate change. And he's going to address them with conviction. Of course, a third of the Congress, they're Catholics. But this speech is meant for all faiths, certainly for both parties and really for all Americans. This morning, Pope Francis making another historic stop on his whirlwind U.S. tour, this time speaking before Congress on Capitol Hill, a first for any pope.
And there's one thing we know about this pope. He's not afraid to take on the status quo, or not afraid to say what he really thinks.
House Speaker John Boehner and Vice President Joe Biden, two of the most prominent Catholics in Washington, will be seated right behind the pope, who may touch on divisive political topics such as same-sex marriage, abortion, even the Iran deal. At the White House Wednesday, a preview of sorts as the pontiff tackled immigration.
As the son of an immigrant family, I'm happy to be a guest in this country, which was largely built by such families.
He also spoke out strongly on climate change.
Climate change is a problem we can no longer be left to a future generation. When it comes to the care of our common home, we are living at a critical moment of history.
For him, these are issues of the gospel because they affect people, especially the poor. And he sees himself as a man on the side of the poor.
In keeping with his style, the Pope has decided to forego a lunch with members of Congress. Instead, after his address, he will go to Catholic Charities, where he'll meet with some 200 homeless. There will be at least one member of Congress who will not be in the chamber for the Pope's speech. That's Representative Paul Gosar. He's a Tea Party Republican, also a Catholic. He said he is boycotting the speech because he says he does not want to be lectured by the Pope on climate change. You know, Chris, this Pope has a very powerful voice. He's very popular. He's the people's Pope. But even this Pope may not be able to bridge many of the divides here in Washington.
It's interesting rationale. The Pope says climate change is real. It is a matter of science. You know, he's a chemist. He said, so if it's real, then I default right to my teaching as a Catholic, and here's what we have to do for the environment. So it's an interesting mix.
Right,
that he has.
of course, a man of faith who accepts the science, right?
That's
you know,
right.
imagine that. And, you know, so that's something that we know is a very political issue here.
And what will he do with those who do not? What will his tone be? We're about to see. Prominent Catholics from both sides of the aisle are going to be here to greet Pope Francis when he arrives. So what can we expect in this speech? CNN senior Washington correspondent Jeff Zeleny is live on the east front of the Capitol, awaiting the Pope's arrival. Jeff.
Good morning, Chris. We are on the east front, so we are on the opposite side of the Capitol where all of those thousands of people are gathering. We're on the side of the Capitol toward the Supreme Court. You can see behind me here, this is the House of Representative chambers. This is where the Pope is going to arrive in just a little over an hour's time. He's going to be greeted by Speaker John Boehner, a Republican of Ohio, lifelong Catholic, who is the man behind inviting the Pope to deliver this joint meeting of Congress here. He will have a private session with Speaker Boehner and Vice President Joe Biden, of course, the first Catholic vice president in this country. Inside the chamber, though, there are going to be so many representatives and senators who are Catholic. 30% of this U.S. Congress is Catholic, and Supreme Court justices as well. 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are Catholic, and 4 of the justices will be on hand today for this address, including the Chief Justice, John Roberts. We're also going to have some presidential candidates in the room. Of course, all 5 senators who are running for president, as well as Dr. Ben Carson. He's the invited guest of Congressman Mark Sanford from South Carolina. Now, some Republicans are slightly uneasy about this message of climate change, as Jim was saying. Some Democrats are slightly uneasy about the issue of abortion and same-sex marriage. They think they might get perhaps lectured to a little bit. But John Boehner had a message to all of them. He said this. He said that the best thing that we can do is to listen and open our hearts to his message. So this is not necessarily a typical political day where things fall into line on liberals and conservatives. His message, of course, is a bit bigger than that. We'll hear it in about just an hour and 15 minutes or so. Actually, just about a couple hours time. Chris?
Very exciting. You know who doesn't care if they get uneasy? Pope Francis. His signature phrase, haciendo lío, make a ruckus, get involved in things, even if controversial. Jeff, thank you very much. We'll check back with you in a little bit. And boy, has the Pope made an impact already. Thousands gathering outside the Capitol building, waiting to get just a peek. Remember, as the Pope passes you, you get a blessing. And to some 70 million Catholics, that would be a dream. CNN's Rosa Flores is out there in the midst of all the excitement. You were by my side yesterday. What's it like out there this morning?
Es un lío, Chris. A mess, like the Pope likes to say. But take a look behind me. There's already lots of people here waiting to get a glimpse of the Pope. Now, you know, we were talking about all the pomp and circumstances going to happen inside the building, but I'm almost sure that Pope Francis would rather be with the people that you see behind me, young and old, with babies. I'm looking at this crowd and I see some flags. I see the Mexican flag. I see the flag of the Vatican. I almost think that he would rather be here talking with these people than actually delivering that much anticipated speech before Congress. But of course, we're expecting him to speak in English. And Chris, I've got to tell you, on the papal plane, he was asked very casually if he was practicing his English, or how good his English was. And he said, oh, el inglés no es mi forte. English is not my forte. But we've already heard him. He's doing pretty good, and I'm pretty sure he'll be delivering a powerful message.
And he thinks it's very important to speak in English, not only because obviously it's the native tongue here, but also because it will allow the people who hear to actually see what he emphasizes and why. Rosa, thank you very much. We'll check back with you as well. We have Democrat Senator Tim